guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the Complete Woman. I know I've been MIA for a couple of th- weeks, and that's because I have been receiving downloads from God on the next videos. Like I say, if this is your first time seeing my face, we are doing this series named titled The Will of God for Your Heartbreak. And the will of God for your heartbreak is emotional maturity and spiritual maturity. So, like I said, before I make any video, I always go to God. It's being directed. I'm not the one coming with head knowledge. Okay? So, I always get downloads, and this time around it was like a lot of downloads. It's like many video episodes all at once. So I was like listening, writing down, was starring in the spirit so that the instructions can be clear. Okay, and yeah, so I'm here with another video. I'm doing this in December, and I'll go off and we'll resume back fully in January. But this is me with the next video God has for us. And the title of today's video, I'm so excited, is Emotional Wounds as Spiritual Attacks. So we are entering into the dynamics, and I'm so excited about this. If this is your first time seeing my face or being on this channel, this is the Complete Woman, and I'm Yemi Abiodun. The Complete Woman is a ministry stroke NGO God gifted me with. Okay. And here we are empowering women physically and spiritually. All right. That five core pillars: emotional maturity, spiritual maturity, mental wholeness, physical elegance, and the last one is financial freedom. So we just started on the first leg, which is emotional and spiritual maturity, which is this playlist you are on now, right? When you are done with this playlist, you should be ready to become emotionally and spiritually mature. And we've been talking about so much, so I would advise you go into episode 1 and feel yourself in up onto this place, because we are going to be saying things that you may not relate to if you've not been following us. So I really advise you go feel yourself on from episode 1, so by the time you get here you know what we're talking about. We've done the introduction. We've talked about emotional traumas. We've talked about emotional wounds, how their causes, the different types. We've spoken about everything. So now we are trying to gear towards how to heal emotional wounds. And before we enter into that aspect, this aspect is very, very important for us to know. And that is that emotional wounds are spiritual attacks. That's what they are. I don't know. When people hear emotional trauma and emotional wounds as spiritual attacks, if you want to know what the difference are, go and feel yourself on our previous videos and you know the difference. So if you are a returning listener, viewer, or what subscriber, girl, love you so much. Thank you for the support. Thank you. Thank you. Don't forget to like the video and comment below if you have any questions, and I'll be very happy to respond to your comments. So, emotional traumas and emotional wounds are spiritual attack. This is why people go to therapy, and huge number of people that go to therapy don't get results. And this is not saying that therapy does not work. Therapy works. In fact, from the next video we'll be doing, you'll see the part therapy plays in healing emotional wounds and emotional trauma. But it's not sufficient enough. Why? Because there's a spiritual aspect to emotional wounds and emotional trauma. If you know, for everything physical that has a name on this earth realm, there's a spiritual aspect to it. There's a spiritual aspect to everything physical. The way I'm sitting down here, there's a spirit me. Everything you see physical, there is a spiritual representative of what it looks like in the spirit realm. When you begin to, a spirit man handles things from the spiritual, then when you do anything and the physical, when you attack something from both the spiritual and as well as the physical, that's a very good strategy where it responds to you. But if you handle something in only the physical realm, there'll be a lot of struggle. Hmm. Or you get 50-50. But when you handle something self from the spiritual, then the physical become very easy. It even falls into place because the spiritual is more, in cases, more tangible than the physical self. So how did I come up with this? And as always, I have my big notes. If I'm looking down, that's how we do here. If you are new here, I write things down, points, so I do not miss anything because it's very important. If you've had generational curses before, have you had them? Raise your hand if you've had generational curses. Generational curses are basically emotional wounds and emotional traumas. That's basically what they are. That's what they are. Generational curses is from the devil. If you believe in generational curses, then you believe in the spiritual and you believe Satan exists. And what is he doing? Why is Satan doing this? In the Garden of Eden, back to Adam and Eve, when they were in the Garden of Eden, they were spirit beings. What this means is they were more spiritual. When you walk in the spirits, if you're a spirit being, Satan have less access to you. So part of the many reasons he needed them to disobey God and fall, there are so many reasons to it, but one hidden reason is so they can die spiritually and take on, so that, imagine in their spirit form they were like light. Immediately they disobeyed. Hmm? Pride came in, he fed them with pride, they died spiritually, and this physical flesh became activated. That's how they knew they were naked, right? And as they knew they were naked, they went to hide. So this physical flesh feels emotions and has thoughts. Just like I thought we learned in the previous episode on how thoughts originate, emotions originate, and how they come together to make the mindset of a person. So he knew if they died spiritually and took on flesh, which they had, he will have access to them to control their thoughts and control their emotions. And if you've been following well, you understand that emotional trauma is this basically means events that happen to somebody that that distorts the thinking pattern. They have negative thoughts and negative emotions. So emotional trauma, negative thoughts, negative emotions coming together to form destruction on the individual. That's what it is. So he tempted the woman. Why? Because she's the bearer of children. Once you inflict, the woman is the one, it's very easy for her to carry on that pain, that wrong mindset onto her children. And now that is how it rides with those are the real bondages, the chains. Those are emotional wounds. So those are generational causes. And when she passes it on to the children, they easily pass it on to their children. And that's how, he's not omnipotent. Those are his technologies of allowing emotional wounds as generational causes, basically. So yeah, because even science in itself have found out that distorted thinking patterns, trauma, can be passed on from one generation to another. When, imagine in the brain neuron, there's a place to where, for pathway, when destructive thoughts and emotions have gone on and on, they've even seen links to it, to the digestive system and many aspects of the body. It distort thinking patterns, it block neuron pathways. So the person, when you are talking about achieving goals, for example, someone with low self-esteem and self-sabotaging mindset cannot relate, because that neuron pathway to and put that and energize them and spark up that emotion to want to go to get things for themselves, think they deserve something, is not there. They can't relate. You can talk from now with your motivation from now till tomorrow, nothing is happening. This is the physical manifestation, and these are spiritual strongholds. These are bondages. You see, they are explaining with all English and science why people will hang on to their abusers out of fear, and they say they are trauma bonding. They are. It doesn't. It. To look at it, it doesn't make sense to normal sense. It transcends sense. Like, why will you be where you are being hot and uncomfortable? And they say it looks familiar to somebody that is not under such bondage. It doesn't make sense to you, because these things are spiritual, and the world don't like to spiritualize things, or they like to remove God as much as they can from anything. And that is why there is so much chaos, so much. It's only God that can bring true liberation from the hold of the devil. It's only God that can give you that. So generational causes are basically emotional wounds and traumas. They use these things to ride and form stronghold from generation to generation. For example, and one, all emotional wounds and trauma originates from the family before they metamorphose into complex wounds. So do I mean by this? From the family point, there are two main strategies Satan use, two main types of emotional trauma and wounds that you see: rejection wound with children where the parents reject them. We spoke about it. Then we have abandonment or neglect. So in abandonment and neglect, you can have neglecting a child's physical needs, you can have neglecting a child emotionally, you can also have neglecting a child psychologically, then you can have rejection. All are These are the basic principles for which potential complex wounds and traumas can evolve in the child's life when they grow into adulthood, and it becomes so complex and messed up. When they give birth, they transfer it to, because that is what they know. And Satan just want, the moment somebody use self-awareness, okay, I'm entering into, anyways, to realize, okay, there is a pattern and I need to break it. Okay, what is this? Your liberation has even started. Nobody may need to even lay hand on you. But again, with every emotional pain, wounds, and trauma, there's a sort of spiritual ignorance covering the eye, because the real revelation, the real healing is finding that truth, coming to agree and say, oh, there's a sense here. But the real thing he uses is to make sure the individuals are blind. They will not want to agree or see it or even notice patterns. It's just normal. All those patterns are normal. It's way of life. Let me give you for example. If you hear in homes, they'll say maybe they are afflicted with generational causes where of near success syndrome, or they you see some people, they are successful and they are no longer successful. They can spiritualize everything, but there is generational wounds there that it rides on. So for example, if you sit down and really look at the patterns that are reoccurring, maybe these people don't have the sense of stewardship, accountability. They spend anyhow. Usually that's one thing he will attack, where you see they are very good at making money, but they don't retain it. If they can see that pattern and be like, something is going on here, and they go to educate themselves and learn and say, you know what, money must stay. It's not all, because something may come that is even health wise he will bring for them to spend that money. Then they now fireize it with the spiritual aspect of prayer and seeking God. Then that is a very good system where they can break that chain. That's why you see in the Bible, Jesus sometimes when he was healing some people, he will be like, go and sin no more. The meaning is, there is always behavioral part. When we learn trauma and wounds, when an individual is operating from trauma and wounds, they form the distorted thinking pattern, form this behavioral pattern which we call maladaptive coping mechanism, to help them to create a false sense of security, so they can kind of shield themselves from triggers or put that potential hurt. Usually that coping mechanism is always sin. It's always a wrong behavioral pattern. There's no way they always come up with a behavioral pattern of goodness. No. And the thing is that when you sin, because in the spirit realm you are now hurting another person, you are giving that demon legal right to continue to ride and hold you by that bondage. And again, it's hard for people to want to admit these things, because again, it will need you removing their sense of security away from them, and they will fight everything you know they won't, because this is what they know to protect themselves. Removing that sense of security will mean vulnerability. Removing that sense of security will mean humility. And no, 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 no. where emotional wounds and trauma triggers and coping mechanism is involved. Pride is in its highest peak. Satan is associated with pride. God is associated with humility and brokenness. All right. I just hope I'm making sense. And yeah, all right. I just hope you are not hearing the mail that is sounding. That's why I'm using my little mic, and hopefully you can hear me. Yeah. Satan have been fighting everything, so we don't bring this video, but I'll say I'm doing it. I'm doing it. We are doing it. So I wrote basically here, Satan is, if you look at this thing and you understand it well, he's a very, very powerless being. The only power he has is that much which you give to him. So the more you what's the word? The more you continue to hold on to that coping mechanism, that your behavioral pattern that is giving you this false sense of security, which is usually sinful, right? Then he has legal rights to continue to afflict the person. Do you get it? The moment you say, okay, I notice this pattern, I want to break it, eh? Then there's war, and you are praying. You've gotten two strategies to break hold of him, of such hold, which I will still go deep into. We'll talk about how to heal emotional wounds, right? But let me give you more insight and depth on what I'm talking about. So let's go back to where I was saying, in a case where there's a generational cause of, like, people make money but they lose it. If you check it very well, there's always lack of accountability and stewardship there. So they spend money, right? They spend money. A coping they could these ones may not even be able to come up with coping mechanism to save their ass, or they'll come up with it, or and such could be that they'll be like, oh, money is not enough, this money is not enough, it means that this work I'm doing is not enough, let me do more things for more work, and there's desperation, and they begin to break their values and morals to acquire money as much as they want to. Meanwhile, it's a case of accountability, and again, it's just ignorance. Let me give you imagine a case of where there was physical abandonment, where children were not being provided for. They grew up with that mentality. You could see, and I told you again, you could see many children go through the same emotional trauma, but they respond differently. That's the complexity of the human psychology for you. You could see most girl children that grew up with lacking mindsets, physical abandonment, yeah, the parents are there, but they were not wealthy enough to provide certain things. They may grow up seeing their friends they play with wear nicer dresses, they can't wear dresses, some they go hungry to bed. They it causes trauma. There's something, and usually where something like this will go to would be their work ethics, right? You see some of them, to fuel them to really work hard, and they become very successful, and they feel they don't need anybody, they are very toxic. Some will grow up to not mind throwing morals out the window to get money any shape or form, either by selling their body, doing OnlyFans, or whatever. They could do anything not to remember how helpless they were when they were growing up, and to them that's success. So far they are not where they used to be, that's success. But you see, that drive, Satan will push them to be doing things that are sinful, like, sexual immorality, degrading themselves, sinning against their own body, stealing from people, scamming people. To them, any point justifies the means to get that bag, because they don't just want to find themselves helpless like the way they used to be. And so one thing with generational causes and all this coping mechanism, he now have access to make their life miserable, torment them. They don't get peace or satisfaction from that way of life. They are awake at night. Some he gives sicknesses, problems. They are making money is never enough. Then let's look at a case where a child who had emotional abandonment and neglect. Now, what do we learn from that? One child could grow up to be a people pleaser, because you see, they'll be looking for that love they never saw in the parents. And a parent, we learned, can be physically present but yet absent. And these children are neglected, so they grow up. You see, this is our girls, you see, in relationship that don't serve them, codependency. They will give their all, do crazy things, and they are taken for granted, but they'll still be there because they had low self-esteem, they were not loved at home. right? And they'll do anything to always want to please the other person, even it means sinning against themselves, doing the wrong things just to get, they could do anything for affection. And that means they will always live below destiny, below what God has for them. They'll always be below, because Satan will steal their joy, steal anything they think they can ever be, from them. Let's look at a case of one with psychological abandonment, no guidance, no morals, nothing. These are the people that can be like arm robbers in the society today, do evil, bad thing, rape, kill people without even caring, because there was no guidance during growing up. So you see, the foundation is always the home and everything, and Satan knows that's this technology, his technique towards emotional wounds and trauma. They are the unit he used to write the generational curses and hold generations in bondage. That's his plan, that's what he does, that's what he uses. So it's very important to know what is what, so that when we enter into how to heal emotional wounds, you understand it very well. You know what we are talking about. If you say one, you know what we are talking about, right? Then rejection, we saw rejection as parents really rejecting their children, making them feel not good enough, downplaying them. Another aspect of emotional neglect. Okay, then we have abuse. I forgot. Sorry. There's abandonment, there's rejection, then there's abuse. And yeah. So there are three, not two, sorry. So now let's enter rejection. Rejection now is like a parent rejecting their children. But when you keep making them, they don't feel good enough. They don't feel good enough. For example, you're always comparing them, that they don't feel good enough in school with other children, with all between kids. Parents do this a lot. Or a case you see that expressive child, they want to come and hug you, and you shut them up because you are not a physical parent, you don't do physical affection, you are doing something to that child, right? They just feel rejected. And rejection brings sensitivity. I've seen individuals that react this way, where they still have low self-esteem and they want to people please because they want to be accepted. I see avoidance. People come up with avoidance and they feel nobody will accept them, so they are isolated by themselves. Another method people can cope with rejection again is to get very rejection sensitivity. When they feel they are not good enough, they self-sabotage because they feel they are not good enough. So self-sabotage, where it affects productivity, goal setting, and all of that. You like understand, why am I always sabotaging myself? Imposter syndrome and all what, because these children at some point have handled rejection. You see the way it translates. These are all the basic building rock of which all other wounds and other traumas build upon, is the home front and how a child was brought up. Then let's enter into abuse. We have emotional abuse, where parents, believe it or not, use emotional blackmail, passive aggression, keeping malice with children, emotional blackmail, withholding affection because you want them to do what you want them to do, name calling. You talk down on that, you are fat, you don't look, they don't feel attractive enough. Low self-esteem again, self-sabotaging behaviors you see with them and all of that. you know and it will take them to adulthood. Those that were rejected, maybe they were meant to do great things, be inventors of things, they'll never come to live that purpose because they'll always be hiding. They'll be people pleasing. No, people pleasing is niceness. Niceness has selfishness attached to it. It's not genuine. The real this thing is kindness. Niceness is you doing things in the hope you'll be approved by others. Kindness is you doing it because you don't need anybody's approval, you just want to be kind to the person, right? So, yeah, they are just ways Satan will choose to attack somebody. I can already tell, if you want to get into his head, if I'm, God forbid, I'm the devil, and I know a child or a family line, God have blessed them, that they are going to like invent things, they'll be great, maybe great business minds will come out of that family, inventors, the Elon Musk and all. I would likely want to plague them with rejection. Yes, rejection, emotional manipulation in the form of blackmail, where they don't feel good enough. I'll put it plenty like that, so that the children will always self-sabotage. They will never know the extent of their worth. I will do it like that. If I see another set that maybe they are calling now, God says they'll birth priests, great children, and their calling will be mothers to raise up their children well. Will attack the mother, or the mothers not to be thinking well. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you look at your battles very well, the emotional trauma and wounds, if you are very very spiritually intelligent, you can discern it. You can discern that the struggles you are going through is definitely your reality is the other way. For example, if somebody is going through intense chronic lack and want and poverty, and anything they put their hands, nothing happen, you may definitely be dealing with a billionaire, someone that is supposed to be extremely wealthy. Is for the day they become very restless and break that yoke off their neck and go to God, yeah, things begin to fall into place. All these things only strive, and the devil have power where you lack ignorance, and he want you to have ignorance. For example, to believe that there's no God and everything. Any small thing they'll say spiritual. These people are spiritualizing everything, but that is the truth. Because what is the least that can happen? You've tried by your strength and every method, and you're still ending up in the same place. Yes, ending up with wrong relationships, wrong people that don't see you for who you are. And no matter how hard you try, nothing will happen. You will reach the distance like this, something will happen. Why? So why not just why reject God? Why not just give him the option and see the difference in what happens? Do you get it? So that's the deception of Satan. People usually think when they say the devil attacks, he comes and he strikes you, or he causes accidents, or makes your house go bust in flames. No, it's the mind. He attacks the mind. He attacks the thoughts, and he attacks the mind. And apart from generational causes, he formed new generational causes new by forming new emotional wounds and traumas with individuals. And before any emotional trauma or wound is formed, it originates from thoughts and emotions. He used the two together to form pain and distorted thinking patterns, where the brain is not is maladaptive, distorted thinking patterns that bring about maladaptive behavioral patterns that will put the person in bondage where they're supposed to be. The moment you break, the power is you. And the reason why you're not seeing it, he rides on ignorance. So that you see all this, any small thing they spiritualize it, spirit cocoa, because there lies your liberation. He doesn't want it. Because when you see the way people dislike God and come so much at God, you'll be like, what did he do to you? But there's a force fighting them not to know the truth, not to know light, because that there is where there lies their liberation. But I just hope I'm making sense. By the time we talk about how to heal emotional wounds, I will make sense more. This is a foundation to something we are driving at. The second point I wrote here, so I don't forget, is his devices. Yes, we just spoke about this. His devices is generational causes on bloodlines and forming new ones self. Because it's out to utterly destroy. He doesn't give space for, oh, allow them to breathe small. No, the way he does it is so fine that the destruction that started with the first generation, by the time the thing reached seventh, if God did not take control, somebody did not do something, it's not the way it started. It as it goes from one generation to another, it will become very very toxic, more complex, and there will be different forms at play now. Yeah, he moves utterly with speed. He doesn't give breathing space. He does not say, oh, you have destroyed, allow them to rest. No, no, he doesn't know compassion like that. He doesn't know it. And it was man that gave him that dominion. He gave him the dominion to do that. Okay. And you can refuse him the dominion. You can refuse him. You can refuse him. Like, go, just like I'm saying, you can. I've not started talking about how to heal those patterns, but you can already see that I'm saying notice patterns for, say, okay, all right, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. And when you want to heal emotional wounds and traumas, it's going to be uncomfortable. Just know that. But anyways, emotional wounds, is an attack. It influences everything. It influences when it's how your productivity, the money you make, your finances, the friends you make, the relationships you get into, the way you reason, the way you react to things, how you become, the way you dress, your mindset, your choices in life is everywhere. Your how you set goals, your confidence. is all hidden in emotional wounds and trauma. How healthy your mind is. A healthy mind, you know, how healthy your mind is how more productive your life would be. So that's what he's attacking. He doesn't like it at all. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want it at all, at all. So it's a spiritual attack. So what we are seeing physically is the physical manifestation of something that's happened in the spirit realm. So as you're using therapy to handle what you see in the physical, you will also be using intelligence to handle um the spiritual aspect of it. Because honestly, if you just want to come up with say, oh, 2025 is our year and this is we get in the bag where and the spiritual aspect is looking at you, okay, you just be going in circles. It will look like you are doing well and got it very well because again, he's a liar. He wants you to waste your time. You will do like you are on the right track until he busts your bubble 2 years down the line or anything. When you handle it from the spiritual, you handle it from the physical. Good strategy. That's it. When you are doing your therapy, you join spiritual intelligence. You are unstoppable force. Okay, we've spoken about the Garden of Eden. Emotional wound is an attack, and he doesn't want you to hear what I just told you. Doesn't want it because with all emotional wound and trauma, for them the seasoning for it to make sense where is ignorance, spiritual ignorance, scale of the eyes and of the heart, right? So they don't know, because when somebody know, humility and brokenness has come in, and that's the 50% liberation already. They've started the battle. They've drawn their sword. They have if possible, the battle has been won. So the key that really keeps people in those bondage is ignorance. Ignorance fuel it. It rides it. Ignorance is the thing. Just say, "Oh, this is normal. We do this. It's normal." It's not normal. You question patterns. Sit down, reflect, and question patterns. So yeah, this was quite a short one. This was quite a short one. So we'll enter into the deeper one. We'll enter into the deeper one. So let me make another video.